My guest now, Bert Van Hoof from Microsoft. Thank you very much for being here. Bert, a big year. Last year you were here. You had one booth. Now we see the entire Microsoft Partner Pavilion, which is a collection of 30 different booths, all running on Microsoft
Isn't it
Azure.
amazing?
It's incredible. Plus, last year was a big year. You won the 2018 Digi Award for Innovation.
Also, yes.
So it is my privilege and pleasure to have you. So first and foremost, what are you seeing so far?
Well, I've just spent some time in our partner pavilion, obviously. Yeah, what a difference a year makes.
Yeah.
So, last year we decided to show up last minute. We were doing some innovative work with a bunch of partners that are in the space. And we thought, well, we should show up at a relevant conference.
Yeah.
We do our own conferences, typically 3 big ones a year. But we wanted to go to an industry-specific event. And then some of these partners said, hey, Realcomm, IBcon, it's the place to be. That's where
we are the best.
And so we took the booth pretty last minute with 8 partners that were working on a limited preview program of what became Azure Digital Twins.
Yeah.
And we talked about the spatial intelligence capabilities at the time, and they showed off solutions in far progress at the time. And so this year we're back with a much bigger setting. So there's a partner pavilion with over 30 partners.
Yeah.
And, we're very proud of that, obviously.
To what do you attribute this expansive growth in adoption of the Microsoft platform?
Yeah, I would say digital transformation is a real concept. It sounds like a buzzword, but we're living it every day. I was in the general session this morning talking about our right to talk about digital transformation, also because we went through it as a company.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're on our next generation of Microsoft, and we made some big shifts. If you think of the Office franchise, for instance, where we had all box software and on-premise solutions, where everything now runs in the cloud, that was not easy. And so we get a lot of credentials or kudos for that. And it makes us a plausible player to talk about what such a journey looks like. If I think about building automation systems, building management systems, are now on a similar journey, right? We need to lift and shift to the cloud. And that opens up all kinds of new doors, right? It doesn't stop there. There's all kinds of new Internet of Things fabric that build on top of that cloud fabric that we can bring into the mix and really makes that everything is getting connected, but also interconnected, right? We had a lot of siloed application types. We had the landlords and owners looking at certain applications. We had the facility managers or the people running the buildings on a day-to-day basis, going after specific sets of segments. And then there's the tenant experience, right? The occupier of the building. And all of those are getting more and more intertwined.
Yeah.
And so we're providing the glue fabric to make that possible, to accelerate it, to democratize it. If you look at the state of affairs there, over the journey we've taken over the last 5 years, is there's massive progress. The big players like partners of ours like Johnson Controls and Schneider Electric and Siemens, etc., they've all embraced our core platform capabilities. But it's been still too hard for many other players. So if you look at the partner pavilion now, you see a vast diversity of players, from startups to some of those big established players, all taking advantage of this new fabric. And we're on this journey every step of the way to make it simpler, right? If I were to draw an analogy, when the internet happened and the browsers came out, originally you had to be a HTML expert, and it took a lot of time to stand up a website.
Sure.
Now you can go to GoDaddy and use a mobile app to stand up as a small business your own website in minutes.
And build a website on Wix or something like that.
This is the same trajectory. We make it simpler and simpler.
As quickly as we can, walk me through a bit of the magic of the fabric. So you can be a building owner and tell me 3 things that I can do if I employ Microsoft Azure.
Yeah, I mean, this goes again across those things that we discussed. Kevin Donaghy of Brookfield was in the session this morning as well, on how they, as a big property owner, start to look at this differently. And it's ultimately that tenant experience. Kevin took me to some of their properties, probably a year and a half back now, which was very impressive. to see how they really create a community in the commercial properties as well. It's not a place where people just work, but they also eat and dine there, come over the weekends, hang out with their families.
So which Azure products are being employed in that scenario?
Sorry?
Which Azure products?
Well, Azure, so to be clear, Azure provides the building blocks.
But I'm
right?
saying
So
which devices and controls?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's everything from what do you do at the turnstiles and the security around the building.
Yeah.
Rick Clark was gave an interesting observation that if you look at Gen 2020, the new generation, they're all used to unlocking their phone just looking at it.
Right.
Why wouldn't that work in the building?
Right.
Well, that's an artificial intelligence application.
Yes.
Right, so that's one element. There's the occupancy and utilization tracking, which can be done through motion sensors or more advanced fabric.
Yes.
You can now deploy a camera that can do people count in a total anonymized fashion.
Really?
And we can do that with all the right privacy safeguards, etc. You can look at all the wellness aspects. We pushed on very simple things like CO2 levels in a building. Turns out if you have a meeting room that's designed for holding 20 people, when you stick 30 people in there, well, CO2 levels really can rise to the level where you get intoxicated.
Wow.
So there's great studies out there that talk about some of these things. So any type of sensing can add value.
Yes.
Right? And those are, that example is interesting because nobody ever knew. Nobody ever paid attention to it.
Right.
And those studies are now going into the effect on cognition of people working in an environment with CO2 levels over 1900 ppm. It's really like having too much alcohol.
Yeah.
Right?
Which could be a good thing or a bad thing.
It affects productivity.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of applications. But to my earlier point, we're all about partner enablement, right? We built the building blocks. We have a very humble attitude about this as well, that we're cloud experts. We run a big part of the world's computer, 54 regions in the world, over 140 countries. So that's a massive fabric that's been building out exponentially. We've been one of the early players in the Internet of Things space, and obviously we're very deep into the artificial intelligence push, but that's our expertise. We need to blend that of the domain expertise of the partners.
Right.
So everybody you see here in this partner pavilion, bring in that unique domain expertise to their area in the built world. And then you see a player like Willow who's really breaking down the boundaries between also the traditional architecture, building, planning, design. Then you construct the building, where we have partners like PCL building on Azure Digital Twins. Then you commission the building, the facility management kicks in, the tenants now occupy the space.
Right.
And eventually you may decommission the building. So those used to be all separate islands where data was tossed over the wall.
Yeah.
And with this fabric, we can make that all much more intelligent, right? Where it's not paper or CDs tossed over.
Right.
And lots of data being lost. There's this real continuum now where all of these things get integrated and hang together.
I have a feeling that next year there may be about 90 people in the partner pavilion. What you are doing is so exciting, not only changing business, changing health, changing cognition.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the work that you do, and thanks for being here.